Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to our second and last career panel of the semester. As the experts, careers in community advocacy and nonprofit. With us today, we have 5 organizations and 6 fabulous panelists who are here with us, who are going to be talking about what they do, and they're experts in their fields. I'm also going to introduce my co-host, career advisor Lilia Zakia, who is your career advisor here at SSC, and she will be also assisting me. Anyway, so much further ado, I want to introduce to each of them. First of all, we have Karla Chavez. Norma Jimenez. Oh my gosh, I have the wrong thing. Norma Jimenez from Planned Parenthood. Jesus Gonzalez from Catholic Charities. Karla Chavez, who is here from the Girl Scouts Cactus-Pine Council. Sawyer Kilen, from the MakeAWish Foundation. And Angelica Cesar and Reyna Montoya from Aliento. So welcome them, please.
So our panelists will be discussing around 6 questions. They're going to start by telling you about their educational and professional background, and then they're going to go on and describe their current position, what some rewarding as well as challenging aspects of their jobs are, various entry-level jobs or internship opportunities in their industry, the importance of internships and community involvement during your time at ASU, as well as what advice they would offer to students, and then we will open it up for all of you to ask our lovely panelists whatever questions you might have. So we can get started. Everyone will have about 10 to 12 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, to go through the questions that I just described, and they have them in front of them.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much. Hi, my name is Norma Jimenez, and let me start my time. I want to be on time. So my name is Norma Jimenez. I am a Latinx organizer, community manager, organizing manager with Planned Parenthood Advocacy of Arizona and Planned Parenthood Arizona. We have a C3 and a C4, and we do nonprofit work. But before I get into talking about a little bit about the work that I do, some of the background on me is I was brought to the United States at the age of 1 from Mexico. So right now I have what is called a DACA status, where I'm able to work lawfully in the United States through a permit and through what Obama passed for students that identified as dreamers. And so I have that, and that's why I'm able to work with Planned Parenthood. My background work has been in organizing, so I do a lot of community involvement. Specifically, I started my work with immigration, because for me, immigration is a huge issue. It affects my family, it affects me personally, and it affects my friends. So me starting my advocacy work and my community work and organizing work within immigration has been a huge factor in what I'm doing now. So I started my work as a student back in 2010, doing immigration work when SB 1070, the law that started to criminalize people for the way that they looked, for the color of their skin. I started organizing around that, working at the state capitol, working with a nonprofit organization and registering thousands of voters to vote in 2010. That's when we saw a huge surge of voters starting to become more involved. I was part of that process because for me, like as a person that's not able to vote because of my status, it was important for me to get out to vote with people that could vote, right? And that I knew that they were going to be representing for the values that I stood with. So I've been doing a lot of advocacy work on that at the forefront. And right now, the current work that I do is working with Planned Parenthood to talk about the importance of our Latinx community, our Latino community, in reaching out for healthcare, right? Like a lot of the times as a Latino community, and I know that it's affected me as well, that we don't take care of our own bodies. And so for me, being in this position with the background that I had in community organizing was just an opportunity that I didn't want to waste. I started organizing with Planned Parenthood since 2012 when the first open enrollment of the ACA started to happen. And my role when I first started was to make sure that I went door to door, knocking the doors with folks that were predominantly Latino Spanish speakers, and making sure that they knew how to register into the open enrollment, or also known as ACA or Obamacare. So that was my priority, right? Making sure that our community knew how to enroll into the system that was super complicated so that they wouldn't get fined. And through that, I continued my advocacy work with Parenthood. Later, I was able to get an internship position with them. And I was able to, at the same time that I was getting an internship position with them, I was also finishing off my college degree, and I have a bachelor's of science degree in healthcare administration, and I graduated from GCU. I wanted to come to ASU, but I was unable to because at that time I had an undocumented status, and it was really expensive to afford college at ASU. So my second option was GCU. So that's where I got my degree from, and not being able to really do much with it, I decided to expand my knowledge and continue to do work with Planned Parenthood, which was really supportive in all the work that I'm doing. Right now, not only do I manage more than 6 programs within our organization, but I also manage our volunteer system that is composed of over 80 volunteers, and I work with other organizers that are here in the area. I work with our team, our advocacy, our public affairs team. So we're a large group we're a small but mighty group of folks at Planned Parenthood. And at Planned Parenthood, we do 3 things, right? We provide healthcare, we provide education services, and we are also an advocacy group. So it's a lot that we do, but my branch is specifically in advocacy. And so with that, I'm able to do a lot of community outreach, such as going into schools and doing sex ed programs, going to parents and talking to them about the importance of getting annual exams or pap smears, or how to talk to their kids about age-appropriate consent or age-appropriate sex. So being able to talk with parents, I do a lot of workshops with parents. I do a lot of community organizing or community partnership with other nonprofits that also do work in the community. And one of the things that I really enjoy is being able to partner with organizations that are not just healthcare driven, but also social justice driven, right? Like we partner with folks that do immigration work, that work with students that have DACA status, work with refugees. We work with ASU, obviously. We have a group here on campus that focuses, it's called Planned Parenthood Generation Action, and so they do work on campus as well. And so, I mean, it's just a broad aspect of stuff that I'm able to do with the work that I do at Planned Parenthood as a community organizer and Latinx outreach person. Like I said, my main goal is to make sure that I talk to the Latinx community and involve them in any way that I can, because Planned Parenthood is more than just abortions, right? A lot of people just say like, oh, Planned Parenthood, baby killers. You don't know how many messages I get on Facebook that just say that I'm a baby killer, and I'm just like, that's not what I do. First of all, I don't have that access, and that's not how it works. So it's a lot of education that I do, working with community partners, like I mentioned before, and we have a lot of opportunities for students to get involved. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 6 different programs that I manage specifically. There's 2 organizers here in the Phoenix area. There's an organizer in Tucson, and there's an organizer in Northern Arizona. So we're pretty big in that sense that we expand in different areas of Arizona. And I would say, like, if you would like to be involved, make sure that you talk to me if you want an internship position. I know that we've gotten some interns that work with us from ASU, from this specific department. And so the importance of that, of being involved within your career right now, is that it opens opportunities for you as a person. It expands your knowledge, it expands your network, and it just, if you're looking to do some type of work within Planned Parenthood or healthcare, or just being community driven and like being knowledgeable within the community, it's a good space to work with nonprofit organizations, because we're able to connect you with other folks that are doing the same work. And that way you're able to see, like, is this something that I want to continue to do? The work as an organizer is not easy, but it is really rewarding. You get to do a lot of amazing things that you're able to like change stuff, change policies. You're able to mobilize people and reach a large groups of people that you know stand with you and that you can count on them, and continue to build those relationships with people. And that's one of the most rewarding things that you can have. So I would say, like, as part of communication, or something that's really important to you as a person, and I'm sure that you all know this, is communication is key. Building relationships with people is the most important thing you'll do, because that's how you're able to get into different spaces. That's how you're able to really get where you want. And I would say make sure that you are always planning, right? Planning is a huge part of the work that you do and the work that you're going to be doing in your lives. In your career choices, so just be mindful of that. Like, I know a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm just gonna wing it, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, I would say always plan. Even as an organizer, planning is super important. Being strategic with where you want to go and what you're doing is super important to everything that you're gonna do, whether it's career-wise or personally. And like I said, being able to maintain relationships with people is really important. It's like a big key for a lot of nonprofit organizations, how we're able to really move people to do a lot of things. I know that with Planned Parenthood, we have a lot of campaigns. Specifically last year, we had where Obama, where Republicans, or just the Trump administration, was trying to take away our funding and repeal the ACA. So I was part of that movement to make sure that we kept our funding and that the ACA wasn't repealed. And it took a lot of building relationships with people and really having intentional conversations with your supporters, with your volunteers, to make sure that you're there. And I can say, like, I have a robust group of volunteers that are dedicated to Planned Parenthood, and that I know, like, if I call them right now, if I FaceTime them or send them an email, they're going to respond to me, because they are, we're on the same level of like where we're going, and we have that communication, right? Like where we want to go and why it's important for them to be involved with us. But yeah, so if you want to know more about the work that I do or how to be involved, like, you can ask me questions. And there's not enough time to talk about everything, right? But I mean, Planned Parenthood is one of the best organizations that I work for, and we are able to do a lot of work in a lot of different areas. So if you're looking to, make sure that we continue to defend women's rights, women's reproductive rights, but also fight for immigration, fight for DACA statuses, and fight for dreamers, and make sure that we continue to keep our families together, like Planned Parenthood is your organization, because it's like being with one organization, but being with multiple organizations. And we also have a bunch of swag that we always have. So I have some in the back. So you can grab some while you're out. So my time is coming to an end, but I hope that you have questions for me to answer.
This is my turn to set a timer. So my name is Jesus Gonzalez. I'm with Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program. I'm currently a senior program supervisor for an intensive case management program known as Preferred Communities. And so this is a program where if a refugee family or a refugee client is having a little more difficulty adjusting to, like the changes that they're going through, or they need specialized medical assistance or life skills coaching, they're sent to my program or they're referred to my program, and we kind of do a little more, again, intensive work with them. That way they're better able to navigate their community and navigate their life. So in terms of my background, though, the majority of my professional time has been spent working with immigrant families, and specifically like undocumented youth. And so I had been doing that for roughly 6 years before I really started working with refugees. My educational background, I graduated with my bachelor's from U of A in Spanish translation and interpretation, and that it was actually incredibly useful, especially working with the populations that I've been working with. And so aside from being able to communicate to them, I could also act kind of like as that cultural guide, for the different families, for the children, and that just kind of transitioned well into working with refugee families. So even though I don't necessarily speak their language, I at least kind of know the process of trying to explain to them how life is here in the United States. So I did immigrant work for around 6 years. I still do it now and again, but mostly the last couple of years I've been working with refugees. So in terms of my current position, again, it's an intensive case management program. So it involves a lot of hands-on work. Even though I am technically a program supervisor, I do find myself out in the field a lot. And that just kind of goes into the role of being a leader. So I have a relatively small team. We only have one core there. She's a special medical coordinator, so she works with all of the intensive cases. But then we also kind of work with other departments and other programs within the refugee program in order we kind of just support each other. So again, even though, like I said, even though I supervise it, I do a lot of, that one-on-one, hands-on, kind of working out in the field. And I think that's really important as a leader to be able to kind of take the reins, where sometimes the special medical coordinator isn't available. She isn't able to take on this other task because she might be doing something with a family, and she's going to be, pretty much caught up for the rest of the day. It's like it's up to me to be able to go out there, or it's up to me to be able to find, somebody that can help with this particular problem in order to kind of, make sure that that family member or that client is okay. And in terms of communication, it's just really important that you communicate well with your team. There are some organizations that I've worked at before where there's this clear divide between, the leadership team or the administrative team, and nobody could really, help each other when there's this really difficult situation to deal with. But what I'm seeing at Catholic Charities, or at least within the refugee program, is that everybody seems to be available and everybody's willing to kind of step up to the plate when they're needed. And I feel like as a leader, that's what you want to be able to reflect, of your organization. You want to be able to, I guess, get outside of yourself, get away from your ego, and understand that sometimes you are going to be doing what's known as grunt work, like that. Even though I myself am not, a base level or an entry level position, I still have to do work that is considered entry level, but that's just part of, the accountability and the responsibility that you have as a leader. So I think it's really important that you learn how to, set aside that ego. You learn how to communicate with your coworkers as if you're not their superior, or they're not your inferior, because at the end of the day, like, everybody kind of has to be there for one another. So in terms of rewarding and challenging aspects of this job, the challenging part of it is that because it is an intensive case management program, you kind of don't know what you're going to get day to day. Like I get to the office in the morning and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do today. And then by midday, it's like I'm doing something completely different, because I'm putting out a fire somewhere else, where like sometimes, case management does become my task for the day, even though I do have like administrative things to take care of. So that's really challenging, is in that I never know what to expect day to day. Another thing is that we do work with multiple cultures, multiple ethnicities, and you don't necessarily communicate with one another in the same way. I'm sure I'm sure you've heard, like in certain cultures, men and women don't necessarily interact on a regular basis. But it's like once you come here to the United States, that's completely different. And so sometimes you have these families wanting to maintain, part of their culture, and we do want to respect that. But at the same time, like me as a man, it's like sometimes I do have to step in and deal with a situation with a woman or with a female, and it's like that might not always be the best fit, but it's like if I'm the only one available, I have to be able to culturally navigate that situation in order to assist the best that I can. So that's difficult, but and also another difficulty is that right now we have been cut nationwide in terms of how many refugees we can receive. So last year was 45,000, and this year that was cut to 30,000 across the nation. So right now it's just a difficult time to be in a refugee resettlement, only because you never know how many clients you're going to be getting month to month, or you don't know what your year is going to look like, you know. So there have been some cuts within the organization, and that's like nobody's fault. It's just that's what the administration has kind of set for the rest of us. So all of those are challenges that we have to face on a daily basis. But what's really rewarding is that working with migrant families, working with refugee families, it's like you kind of see that growth, you know, that they get here and they don't know what's going on, they don't know who to trust, but then at the agency you just, you know, you have somebody that's willing to just be there for them and listen to their needs, and that's really rewarding to see that they're able to trust somebody and you kind of see that growth. So within our program, it's usually about a year that they're there with us, and you just see it from beginning to end, you know, how much they've been able to accomplish just while they've been in the program and all of the guidance that they've received. So that's amazing. So let's see. In terms of entry-level jobs or internships with us, Catholic Charities is a really big organization, so I could only speak for the refugee department. So right now we do have a couple of interns from ASU from the School of Social Work, and we also have an intern from NAU, but I'm not entirely sure what her, out of what college or out of what school. But they typically assist, you know, with the day-to-day, or they, one intern that's working with me very closely is we're working on presentations, like in addition to the cultural orientations that we give our clients on when they first get here, there are some that are having difficulties like dealing with living in an apartment complex because that wasn't, you know, the way they lived back in their home country, or dealing with, you know, neighbors from different ethnicities and, you know, that interaction and kind of getting them to understand that this is the way it is here in America and you have to kind of, you know, get along with your neighbors. Those are the types of internship opportunities that we have within refugee resettlements. But again, there are plenty of opportunities. Catholic Charities has like counseling programs, housing programs, programs for veterans, adoption and foster care. There's also domestic violence, you know, so there's a plethora of opportunities in order to volunteer or to intern with our organization. And I do have some information regarding that, so at the end of the panel, I could go ahead and give you some information to take home. So, importance of internships or community involvement. So, I didn't take this seriously when I was a bachelor's student. I kind of just went to school and I hung out with my friends, and that's fine. But once I had graduated, especially the way the economy was when I graduated back then, I kind of saw like, oh, I should have been doing more. I should have been a little more involved. So when I ended up coming back to ASU to get my master's in social work, and in that time, like I was making sure that I was networking, or I was getting involved in my community, or I was doing, you know, as part of our program, we have to do internships, but it's like I took it super seriously this time around. And I found out that it was a better way to go with my education, because I went back for a master's not just so I could, you know, get more information or kind of get prepared in order to be at that higher level of, like, say, a supervisor, but it was also because it's like I want to network, I want to know who I'm going to be working with, because social work, it's a really small world. Like you'll notice, like you'll run into each other all the time in the social services, so it's really good to know who you're working with, and it's even better to have said, like, I've worked with this person before. So I could honestly say that because of my last year internship as a master's student, I got the position that I have now. And it's not because I was good friends with certain people, it's just that I had worked with them before and they knew my work ethic and they knew the types of projects that I was working on while I was a student. And so that kind of just gave me that kind of like the leg up, you know, and that gave me that opportunity to get the position that I do now. So it's really important that you take your internship seriously, or if you don't have an internship as part of your program, find those volunteer opportunities. There's lots of organizations that want the essential free labor, so get out there. In terms of social media, I can't speak for that. I'm really bad with social media. So I'll just go ahead and say, if you're really good at marketing yourself on social media, just keep doing it. LinkedIn, I hear, is a great resource. I wouldn't know, but there's also Handshake, I think, through ASU. So there's a lot of ways that you could start, showing what it is that you're doing in order for that employer, that eventually you'll interview for them to be able to see, like, this is what you're bringing to the table. But yeah, like I said, depending on your field that you're going into, it might turn into a small world. So just start getting to know your classmates, start getting to know your professors, start getting to know, the different organizations that are available in your community, because chances are you're going to be working with them either directly or indirectly when you're a professional. And I think that's my time.
All right, now it's my turn. Let's see. All right, so my name's Karla Chavez, and I am a program outreach coordinator for Girl Scouts. And when I tell people that I work for Girl Scouts, they always assume that I work at camp or I help bake cookies. And that's something that I completely do not do. So I work with the Social Impact Program with Girl Scouts. The Social Impact Program is focused on has four focus areas. So one of them is serving refugee girls. The other one, foster care and group homes. Third one would be girls of incarcerated parents. And then the last one's going to be the juvenile detention centers. So those are girls that our focus areas on, and those are where we go and deliver program to. I graduated from ASU, got my bachelor's in nonprofit management, and then I found out that there was a certificate in special events. So I went into that, and that's actually how I found the job working for Girl Scouts. One of my professors would send out emails for volunteer opportunities as well as job opportunities. I had never heard of Girl Scouts. Coming from a Hispanic background, parents didn't know English, Girl Scouts wasn't ever known. But I was curious to learn more about it. I liked their little cute uniforms, so I went in, had an interview, got the job, so I started as a part-time there. I worked there for about a year. When I got my bachelor's degree, I was promoted into full-time as a membership coordinator. So going out in the community, getting volunteers and troop leaders to serve more girls. While I was working as a part-timer, I was kind of nosy. I wanted to know what other people were doing around me. Like I seen somebody working on something, I would go ask, like, oh, hey, what is that for, And any meetings that were available to me, I would want to attend. I would also like to shadow people, like if they would go to a presentation or they were doing a presentation, I wanted to be there so I can learn. And I think that that's what really got me to stand out from the other staff, because there was always a group of 9 part-time people. And luckily for me, I was able to get promoted to full-time. And then I was working there, became full-time, and then I went back to school to GCU and just recently got my master's in science and leadership, which was really nice because I was able to relate the work from there to my job and bring it in and work on it. So I was gaining knowledge as well as different experiences. So right now, as a program outreach coordinator, my goal is to go out in the community and start building relationships with different organizations throughout the community. Serving refugee girls and foster care, that's something new that came to Social Impact this year. So we're still trying to expand and build the relationships throughout the different communities. So my goal right here is just to go in, meet the people, learn about the organization, and talk to them about what Social Impact does and see what connection we can make and how it is that we can go in to serve the girls they serve. Some rewarding and challenging aspects of my job. So rewarding, I love my position, been there for 5 years. You are working hands-on with the girls. You are a coordinator, so you're supposed to be out in the field, but it's always nice to go in and just check in on how programs going and getting to know the girls. For the Girls of Incarcerated Parents, GSBB, I'm actually the lead for that program. which happens on Saturdays, and we take girls twice a month to visit their moms at Perryville Prison. So we go into the facility and we have program with mom and daughter for 2 hours, and then we take the girls back home. That's a little challenging there, just because some of the girls, okay, I'm gonna use an example. One of the girls, she's gone to visit her mom twice already, but she hadn't seen her mom in 13 years. So it's just Girl Scouts out in the community, bringing those girls that haven't seen the moms, just because most of the guardians are the grandparents, and they don't have a way to the prison, or grandparents don't have the visitation that they're supposed to have to be able to go in and visit mom. So us being able to serve the girls there has a huge impact, not only on the girls but also on yourself. You learn from them as they're participating in program. They help you see things differently, like appreciate life a lot more, and you're always looking for different ways to go in and make a difference in their life. And you get different ideas, as you're doing programs, something might not have worked how you had thought it would be. So then you just bring that back and you sit and kind of reflect on, okay, so this is what happened. What can I change to make it better next time? And that's when the different ideas and different innovative ideas come to mind, and you bring them out. Some of the challenges is just reaching out to the families, All of the social impact programs are completely free of charge to the girls. We provide the supplies, transportation, and we feed the girls. So when we're reaching out to the families, you kind of have to convince the families on believing that Girl Scouts is doing it. So just sometimes you have to even go in person, over the phone isn't going to work. So just going in person, presenting yourself, talking to them, building that trust between you and the family is goal. Other challenging things is things don't go as planned, They hardly ever do, so always have a backup plan. Always keep in mind that change is everywhere, and so just be ready for it. Problem solving. There might be an issue during program. There's this room, we reserved it, but there's a meeting in this room. So what can we do? We can't just walk out and say, okay, program's canceled because the girls are waiting. So then we think about, okay, so if we can't use this room, we can go outside and we can do this activity, So like I said, just be ready for the change. For Girl Scouts, for our social impact, the majority of people that work for us are part-time. There's only myself and another coordinator, but everyone there is an ASU student. So they're able to relate their work with their school. And being able to partner up with this program for the first time is something that I'm super excited about. So being able to work with students from this program to kind of lead the Juvenile Detention Center program. So how that works is you plan program for the girls, and you go in and facilitate it for an hour. And we serve the SEF, so the Southeast facility, and Durango. That happens once every 2 weeks, for an hour. There's a process for that, so you would have to get badged and all that. But I'm very excited to see what the outcome would be like. It's something new. And it's pretty nice because we try to keep it consistent, like the people that are facilitating program, just because you start to build relationships with the girls. As you open up to them, they're going to start feeling comfortable, and they're going to start opening up to you. So going in and facilitating program, it's not so much like, okay, guys, let's do this, this, and this, It's more like, okay, this is our icebreaker. Icebreaker is usually a fun game, depending on what it is that we're doing. Or it is a discussion question, to lead us into program. And a lot of the girl stories in there you'll be surprised. You're just like, what? Yeah, you can't believe it, but you're there to support and show that they matter. And all the activities that we do, we try to get the girls to end up feeling a certain way, like, okay, when I get out of here, I can make a change, or when I get out of here, this is my plan, not to come back to this facility, but instead to continue it by doing this, So part-time job, and you build your way up. And like I said, just stand out from the crowd, try to, okay, I'm a facilitator, but what else can I do, the importance of an internship and community involvement would be, so maybe you have your mindset on working with juvenile detention centers when you get out. So, but then you see an internship at a school, visiting different schools throughout the week, just seeing how the kids are engaging with one another. And you're like, no, I don't think I would I don't feel like that would fit under what I'm expecting or wanting to work at after I get out. Just take on the challenge, just go in and ask if you can be a volunteer for a day. Experience different things, Some of us, like myself, I kind of judge things from the outside. I'm just like, no, I don't think I would fit. But then just walking in and just seeing it, or even just sitting through, okay, I just want to sit through to see what it's like. That can help change your mind. And then maybe it's really not what you want to do, but you have that experience now. And then just community involvement, wherever it is that you can be participating, volunteering, maybe an hour every weekend. You meet new people, so you're able to make the different connections, and you are also gaining knowledge and experience that you can take on with you for your professional life. So my advice, this was a surprise to me when I was told, because I've always been afraid of failure, it's always like, oh, that's a negative, it's like, I don't want to fail at that, so I'm not going to try it. But something I've gained throughout my different experiences is just like, okay, I'm going to try it, I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to see what I gain from it. It might not work out how I was planning it to work out, but I'm going to bring it back, sit and make the change so I can try it again and be better at it next time. So failure isn't something bad. It's more like an experience that you get to make yourself better at what you are trying to gain and become. So I just think be out there looking through different things, making the connections. And I think that's my time.
All right, fantastic. Well, I have to say thank you to the organizers of this career panel, and I'm definitely overjoyed and honored to be a part of it. Also overjoyed to hear everyone's experience and background. I think I'm obviously instilled with a lot of passion in a lot of other areas, so maybe I'll be reaching out to some of these folks for some volunteer opportunities, maybe on an individual basis, because I think each one of these career panelists has a very extensive experience and a really neat path, and the organizations for which they work are very rewarding. But my name is Sawyer. I'm a volunteer manager at MakeAWish Arizona. So obviously, I just like to get a poll when I do these types of things. Does everyone know what Make-A-Wish does? By show of hands, okay. So I don't have to go too in depth to our organization and our mission, but our basic mission is together we create life-changing wishes. We create life-changing experiences for children with critical illnesses. So obviously a very basic mission statement, but I think within the basic or the simplicity of our mission, the work that we do I think is very complex in the community. And I'll get to that here in just a bit, but a little bit more about how I got to the role I have here today. I'm not from here. I know, surprise, as there's a lot of people here in Arizona that are from Arizona, but I'm actually from the state of Iowa, and I went to the University of Northern Iowa. I got my bachelor's degree in leisure, youth, and human services. It was not the for fun degree or the lazy degree, but that's what people thought. So I always like to prove them wrong. But I got a specialization in nonprofit management, youth development, and so obviously in college, I really affiliated myself with a lot of organizations that give back to the community in some way. And my passion, I developed a passion through being a camp counselor at the YMCA summer camps. Dedicated my summers, to really servicing kids and to really making 1 week out of their summer, really the best it can be, and really hopefully in some way change their life in some way, shape, or form. And through those experiences, I was able to really kind of find my passion and find my calling kind of later on in college. So I changed my degree a couple of times in college, which is okay to do. I think that's one of my pieces of advice is, don't be afraid to change your career path, because you never really know necessarily where that's going to lead. So be flexible. You don't have to necessarily have a rigid career path and stick to it. If you find something else that you're passionate about, definitely pursue it. So I pursued those passions, and I was affiliated with Dance Marathon, which is a college level organization that fundraise. We did a one big event during the year, and it was a dance marathon. And we fundraise for the local children's hospital. I also worked for the Relay for Life Children's, the Colleges Against Cancer. So we did put on Relay for Life on our college campus. I also did Wishmakers on campus, which helped me get affiliated with MakeAWish, which is the college level organization that helped fundraise for the local MakeAWish chapter, which was MakeAWish Iowa. And we put on various small fundraisers throughout the school year to help. Our ultimate goal was to build up enough money or fundraise enough money to grant one wish to a child in the state of Iowa. So at that time, that was roughly about $7,500. So it wasn't necessarily a lot in comparison to some of these other organizations and what they're fundraising, but definitely I think that the money that we were providing to the organization definitely made a lifelong change, a very memorable impact on the child whose wish we were funding or helping to fund. And so a lot of these organizations really helped me find my passion, and then ultimately MakeAWish was just a dream organization for which I wanted to work, so I definitely pursued that. I was open to moving across country. I'm from Iowa, so I kind of moved cross country, open to moving cross country to really pursue my passion. So I think definitely don't be afraid to really to plant yourself in an area of unknown. I came here with no friends, no family, no support, but I definitely was excited at the opportunity, and I think there's a lot of growth that can happen when you are faced with those types of challenges. So my current position at MakeAWish, obviously I'm our volunteer manager, so really I work in three focus areas. I recruit, I retain, and I recognize. I recruit volunteers to be a part of our organization. We have roughly 700 to 750 volunteers statewide. MakeAWish is a part of a much larger enterprise. We have 60 chapters located around the United States. And we are also an organization that grants wishes internationally as well. So we serve every single community here in the United States. We also are located on nearly 50 different countries on 5 different continents. We have 41 international chapters that serve kids around the globe. And it's all started actually right here in Arizona about 38 years ago. So just a little bit of brief history around the organization. But I work for the local chapter to the state of Arizona. And MakeAWish as a whole is very volunteer driven. So the work that we do at MakeAWish and the work that I do, I think is very important and is very community based and community oriented, really helping folks in the community understand how they can service our organization. So again, 700 to 750 volunteers that I work to recruit, retain, support, recognize, engage in our mission, which if I go back to the mission of our organization, our only program at MakeAWish is granting wishes. And our volunteers are a very integral part of our mission. Our volunteers, a main part of what they do is they actually go out and they meet with our wish kids in person, the kids that are receiving a wish from our organization, and they help them decide what they would like to wish for. They empower. We empower our kids to choose a wish, choose an experience that's closely dedicated and closely oriented to who they are as a person. So just even thinking about wishes that you all would wish for, if you have the opportunity to receive a wish, what would that be for you? And typically it's going to align with your passions and your desires in life. We have volunteers that help kind of bring that out in our kids as well. So obviously, just recruiting across the state. So we do orientations and trainings. Obviously, here in the metro area, the Phoenix metro area, but we do also in-person orientations, virtual orientations, in-person trainings just around the state of Arizona as well, because we really utilize individuals in communities around the state. Tucson, Flagstaff, Yuma, Saharita. I'm still trying to figure out how you pronounce that, by the way, so I do apologize if I mispronounced it, to really help service our organization. I think with my role, and I dedicate 100% of my time to volunteer engagement, to volunteer recruitment, to volunteer retention. I think since I've been in this role, and I've been in the role about 4 years, I think some of the challenges, of course, is there is an ever-changing, or there is a shift in volunteers in today's world versus even what it was like 4 or 5, 10 years ago, where obviously we're engaging 4 generations four generations in the volunteer force, the volunteer workforce. Obviously, you have the baby boomers, you have the Gen Xers, you have the Gen Ys, they have the millennials, and even just here in the next couple of years, another generation as well. And with that, they all have different passions and desires. They all want to be recognized and communicated with in a different way. And it's also finding roles to fit their expertise. So a lot of individuals today, especially the Gen Ys and the millennials, so right here in this room, they want to be able to provide a really direct and an immediate impact to the organization with the skills they feel they possess. So it's how can we find roles to fit the needs of our volunteers, the ones who really want to provide their time. Also, because you have many passions, you obviously dedicate your time to many different organizations, which means that you have little time to dedicate to a specific organization. Where our organization, where one of the major challenges is our main volunteer role, what we call a wish granter, is someone who has to dedicate time more long term versus more short term, which is what a lot of folks are looking for. So it's really kind of finding that balance, and we're really starting to have some strategic discussions around how can we kind of shift our world of volunteerism and how we utilize volunteers to really best fit the volunteer workforce really as seen today. And really kind of still keeping intact how, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, how they want to volunteer their time. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is really advocating and working with 4 different generations or age groups. Obviously, too, you're working with individuals in the community, so and we're very team-oriented, very team-based. So I think, yes, communication is very big just within our organization. Each one of our departments works with one another. We have our leadership department. Our leadership department. They are obviously they work on very high-level strategic projects and initiatives to really further the organization. But again, yes, they're seen down doing the grunt work, which I think I think was mentioned a couple of minutes ago. I think that's important for the leaders to really get down and do the grunt work, to really show the employees that they service and they work with that they can get down and do what they do on a daily basis and really learn the intricacies of the organization. In order to really make strategic improvements for the organization long term, they have to know kind of the intricate processes. But with that, comes communication. It's knowing how my role affects our marketing department versus how my role affects our program department. Providing volunteers so that our program department can grant wishes. Our marketing department works with our program department because with the wishes that we're granting, obviously our marketing or communications department, they want to showcase or they want to communicate to the public the work that we're doing and the experiences that we're providing and the change that we're making in the community. Our development department, we're a purely philanthropic organization, so we don't get government assistance. We rely on the pure good and giving of individuals like yourselves to give us money. And, obviously when you have many passions, obviously another challenge is kind of fighting for your money and also educating you on where your money is going. And so creating that transparency as well. So I think communication is really very big at the very high level, but also at the kind of the lower end of the spectrum and going down to our volunteers. And a lot of our staff members work with volunteers on a day-to-day basis. So although I do oversee our program and manage it, we have a lot of other staff members that really engage and manage and support volunteers with the work that they do as well. And that kind of brings me to the intern program, which I'll talk about here in just a bit. So those are some of the more challenges of the organization, just seen from my role. I'm not talking about the organization as a whole. Obviously, resources and support is another big, an ever existing challenge. It's human resources, getting the volunteers. Some volunteers, they come and go, so it's always having the need for trainings and always having the need for retrainings and support and retaining volunteers to really be a part of our program. And obviously the monetary support, keeping those funds in the organization, raising money in a lot of creative or different ways to engage different individuals in the community and how they want to support the organization. And I think I'm very honored to be a part of an organization that really does try to be on the creative cusp of how we engage different individuals, groups, corporations for giving money, for giving their time. And then obviously a rewarding part of the organization is really just getting to transform a life. And we're really in the business of changing lives, and I think we've had some studies some medical studies that are on the horizon that really do reflect and do educate or can educate individuals of how MakeAWish can really truly transform a life and being provided something that is a once in a lifetime experience, something that they thought that they can only dream of and never thought the possibility of obtaining, and now they get to obtain that through the work that we are doing in the community, because we certainly don't do it alone. And how that can really propel them towards really achieving their other passions in life, achieving goals, and really getting to understand what life is truly all about. And it's really a change in mentality, a mental shift that we're seeing with the kids that are receiving wishes from our program, that they see that really there is a lot in life to offer, and they don't necessarily have to limit themselves to their condition, and not always thinking about their condition. It's a part of them, but it doesn't necessarily drive who they are. Who they are is really determined by what they fight for, what they believe in, what their passions and desires in life are. And we allow them to see that, and you all have the opportunity to get them to see that by being engaged in our organization, because we are a very community-based organization. We work with the community. We service families that come from different, very, very, very diverse backgrounds as well. So we engage individuals in the community to help service our family, the families with which we work that come from different backgrounds. We want to reflect the clientele or the customer base that we serve, which is our kids and our families around the state. And so by engaging different groups and community groups and individuals in the community, that can really reflect the cultures and the languages that our families and our kids are speaking and are living in. So I think that's a very rewarding part of the job. Obviously, we have a variety of internships. Entry-level positions, they come and go. I think what's great about being involved at MakeAWish is we're a nationally based organization, so although you may not necessarily find jobs at MakeAWish Arizona, you may find jobs in other parts of the country, because again, we service every single part of the community. We have 59 other chapters that may have entry-level positions available. By becoming involved in our organization, you may have the opportunity to network with some of those folks that work in those organizations or those chapters around the country, or even around the globe. We also, here in Arizona, have access to our national corporate headquarters, MakeAWish America, and they're a much larger corporate entity with a plethora of open positions available, some entry-level, some higher level. They also have their own internship program as well. So I think there are a plethora of opportunities available to you, specifically at MakeAWish Arizona. Actually, we have one of our interns here today, Abby, who surprised me. She's our wish granting intern, so she works directly with our program department to help build and plan wishes. She gets to see on the back end really what it takes to plan and grant a wish. We also have interns in our marketing or communications department, and interns in our development department that work with corporate sponsorships, corporate partners, also work with some school groups as well. We have we really engage middle schools and high schools and college students to really become a part of our organization through efforts of fundraising. So we have interns that work with middle schools and high schools and colleges as well in the community. So more community based. We have folks that work to communicate and to support the medical community as well. We partner with a variety of medical organizations within the community. So it's really a building communication and building rapport within the medical community, and allowing the community to understand how a child can become eligible to receive a wish, what the requirements are, and things of that sort. So we have a variety of different opportunities. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about our internship program, I do have some internship flyers as well. And again, I think becoming a part of the organization does give you access to a much wider network. And then what advice? I think the importance of an internship just is really what everyone stated. It's the ability to network. It's the ability to network, and it's the ability to have access to experiences. I think that's the one big thing, is the importance of an internship is an experience. It's the opportunity for you all to go out and understand and find what you're truly passionate about, and how you can best utilize your skills to really benefit that organization. And with those experiences, you can find little, and then you can build upon skill sets as well. So you can figure out and find different skill sets that you maybe necessarily never knew you had, which make you more diverse. And then so the job for which you apply after college or when you start to build your professional, portfolio, you have maybe more of a diverse background. And then, so those are just a couple of things. I know I'm over time here. I tend to over talk, so I apologize about that. But yeah, and then what advice that kind of goes along with the advice. I think bloom where you're planted is a big one. You're going to take positions that you don't like, and be aware of that, and have the ability to bloom, shine where you're planted, so that the people around you really can speak good of you. Maybe when you decide to take the next step up and apply for another role. So building that professional portfolio and not burning bridges. Always continue to network. Seek opportunities to learn about what others in your organization are doing, to really gain that experience, to gain that knowledge. Maybe create a mission statement. If you're passionate about a lot of different organizations, create a mission statement for yourself to really help narrow the scope and figure out what you're truly passionate about, and to pursue those passions. And then in the nonprofit industry and the service industry, just expect to wear many hats. I think that's been said. You're going to be doing things that you didn't see or feel you have to do. But that's not the type of mentality that we can have in the nonprofit industry. So, again, I know I've overspoke. So thank you for the opportunity to just understand what I do.
So I want to make sure that I keep it really concise so we can actually have time for questions. My name is Reyna Montoya. I'm going to be sharing the time with Angelica Cesar, who is currently one of our fellows. So I am the executive director and founder of Aliento. So Aliento literally translates into breath, but when you give aliento to someone, it's like giving words of encouragement. We are a hybrid organization. How many of you have heard about hybrids? Okay, very few people. Good. So a hybrid organization, it's pretty much you have different entities. So we have a fiscal sponsor that kind of like wears the hat of the nonprofit. And then we have an LLC component, which is for-profit arm. So I will tell you why are we a hybrid organization, but literally what we do with Aliento, our entry point is trauma, and we transform trauma into hope and action. We work predominantly with undocumented students, children that live in mixed status families, meaning that they might be citizens, but they live with a parent that is either undocumented or a family member who's undocumented. And for us, it's really important that we understand what trauma and just fear and anxiety creates within the community. And we're not talking about trauma for having divorced parents or other different ways of life. We're talking about specific policies and structures that are creating that trauma that doesn't have to exist. So for us, it's like, how do we really co-create spaces within the community to transform that into a safe space where they can process their feelings, but are also understanding what are those policies and laws that are causing that, and how can they become agents of change to actually change those policies. So within that, we have 4 main components. We have an arts and healing workshop. We do most of our healing through non-clinical work, through the arts. We have advocacy and policy, which is like more of our community organizing, so changing those policies that I talked about. We have a leadership development arm, and then we have ally engagement. We know that we cannot do the work alone, so how do we make sure that those people who are really good intended, that they're like, hey, I want to help the undocumented community, but they might not know how can we have a space for them to be engaged, and that they understand that we're not in the world, in the work or in the business of actually saving people. Our people are in power, and our people just need a space and need a voice for them to actually raise. So we have different positionalities in this space. So how do we ensure that we're encouraging and creating those spaces for us to see each other as humans and really recognize that we're all interconnected individuals? So how did I get to found my organization, and why are we a hybrid? So I'm an ASU alumni. I graduated from here with a double major in political science and transborder studies. And I also minor in dance. So I was that crazy undergraduate student taking 21 credits every semester, so go Devils. But within that time, I was undocumented. There's only 1% of undocumented students that actually are able to get a high master's or higher degree, and I am one of the 1%, which is extremely ashamed that those are the statistics, but it's really grounding at the same time because I'm coming here and speaking to you from a place of privilege, even though that I am a DACA recipient just as Norma, right? Just having the ability to be here at ASU, it did open a lot of opportunities in terms of networking with people, but at the same time, even though that I didn't have I wasn't really allowed to do internships because back in the day, people didn't know about Dreamers. I didn't know about undocumented students. So the environment has definitely shifted for like better in that sense of like at least access. So there's been a little progress, but at the same time, it really pushed me to do a lot of like volunteer work. I started organizing at a grassroots organization here as a student-led organization that we founded here. Well, I didn't found it, but I was part of like way back in 2008, 2009. Jose Patiño, who's part of our team, was one of the 50 co-founders of that organization because it was all student-led, very grassroots. People were meeting in the basement of the LLL building because people were truly afraid that Joe Arpaio was going to come and grab us. So that was the environment where I really got politicized and I started really understanding that I wasn't the only one. Growing up in Gilbert, Arizona as an undocumented student, it was really hard, predominantly Anglo environment. So I was one of the few people who spoke Spanish, who was undocumented, so not really having that support system really really didn't allow me to connect with other folks until I got into my undergrad career. Long story short, after that, ended up working for a nonprofit, national nonprofit, the largest of undocumented youth, really learning to know that most of their mission wasn't really they weren't really walking the talk, but they were more loyal to their funders. So I got to learn that side of the nonprofit sector and really seeing the limitations of it that really pushed me to really be angry, really be jaded, but at the same time, it really pushed me to be creative about, okay, if I have all these criticisms about these structures, and I don't think that that's gonna lead to policy change, what is my solution? What is my alternative? And that's what really pushed me into creating my own thing after being a receptionist at a law firm, doing anything from like all the little works, from being an organizer to being doing policy in Washington, D.C., to be a high school teacher and got to see and bear witness to all of my students going through very similar challenges that I had to face. So it really ignited my passion to really figure out an alternative for that. So long story short, some of the biggest challenges that I have learned in my journey as a founder and executive director is that there's not a lot of women in positions of power. There's a lot of organizations that claim to be really kind of like saying we are from the impacted people, but their leadership doesn't really mirror that. So it's really unfortunate to see that a lot of the decision making, it doesn't really come to the communities that are impacted. So for us, that's why it's really important that we have a leadership development component. And that's why I wanted to invite Angelica, so then we can really share that power. So if we are talking about shared power and talking about accountability, how do we walk that talk? And as a startup organization, we have done a lot of progress. We have currently five interns. They come from right now MCC, UCU, and high schools. In the past, we have had an intern from ASU and another intern from Scripps. We have 5 fellows. So right now as Aliento, we're creating multiple hubs that Angelica will talk a little bit more. But then we are expanding to 7 different locations, including ASU. So if you want to learn more about that, connect with Angelica afterwards. And then I think that I want to really like wrap it up in more about kind of like what are some of the tips and the challenges that I have seen as an ED is that a lot of the work, it's very political. It doesn't matter like in what industry that you will face by just the way that you show up in the world. There's gonna be a lot of structures that are gonna manifest and that are gonna hurt you personally. So being really emotionally aware about what does that to you and like what are the support systems that you're creating for yourself and not being afraid to really ask for help. I actually wanna provide a different perspective. People would always tell me that I was kind of like burning bridges, right? And I think that at the end of the day, it is about what makes you passionate and what are your work ethics and what is something that you're gonna be willing to really move the needle forward. Because at the end of the day, you might be thinking that you're closing a door, but you're actually maybe opening an opportunity for your own self-discovery and something that is gonna really make you feel proud. So do not be afraid to take risks. Be honest, because at the end of the day, you can lie to anyone but yourself. So really have those check-in moments with yourself and then really figure it out, like what's keeping you late at night and how can you make sure you're finding either volunteer opportunities or ways for you to get involved, because there's so many options, there's so many good organizations, we heard for so many today, that there's a way that you can get plugged in. It's a matter about you making that choice. So with that, I'm gonna try to walk the talk and I'm gonna stop speaking so I can hand it over to Angelica.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Angelica Cesar. I'm a fellow for Aliento here at ASU. Part of my work here on campus, like Reyna said, is just to establish an Aliento hub here so that we can extend Aliento's work beyond just Aliento. We're expanding it to the local community and bringing on people who are also direct and impact. To give you all some context, I'm majoring also in political science and transporter studies, so that's a crazy coincidence. But I am directly impacted by this. I come from a mixed status family, meaning that I am the only U.S. citizen in my family. My family members are undocumented. So I am directly impacted by issues like family separation, by issues relating to education equity. So that's kind of how I became familiar with Aliento, through the work that was done in the community. We're now working on the Educated Arizona's Future campaign, which is part of my role here on campus. So if you're interested in learning more, come find us in the back. We have cool stickers that we can hand out. But as far as fellowship goes and the importance of internships, it's very, very important to just get that connection so you can have those professional development experiences. As a student, this work that I'm doing with Aliento as a community organizing fellow has really helped me to hone in on my passions and my calling, but also to do it in a way that's actively developing my talents and my skills. Things like leadership development trainings that we have over the weekends that really give you insight as to how to organize within the community, actually taking the initiative to plan events here on campus and seeing that process through from the beginning to end with guidance from mentors at Aliento has truly, truly been impactful to where I see myself going in the future and to how I'm now interacting with others at school. So really getting that hands-on experience is critical. Studying definitely important, but also make sure that you're getting that professionalism in there. As far as advice that I could offer to students, like student to student, I would say just be bold. Don't be afraid to ask or to network. I became involved with this fellowship because I actually asked Reyna, like, hey, what's going on at Aliento? Like, what are some ways that I can get involved? Previously, I had applied to be a community organizer, didn't get it, and that's totally okay. Just keep trying, keep becoming engaged in the things that you are passionate about and care about, and those opportunities will come naturally. Just be bold and ask. Something else that I've learned with Aliento is just that it takes 30 seconds of courage to create and spark meaningful relationships and to really start to build those networks and change lives. So yeah, that's my advice.
And we have very different internship opportunities that are for credit or non-credit. We ask for 10 hours at least for people to do that. If you have less commitment, you can become a volunteer. And we have anything from like the arts intern if you want to hone in more into your artistic development and thinking about this like non-clinical trauma informed pedagogy. And also we have like a social media internship, we have community organizing, and we have multiple different ways that you can like really like hone in into that, because we're really grounded in leadership development and want to make sure that if we support you with your passion, we know that you're going to be in the right track. So under time, 12 minutes. Thank you.
So everyone, we have about 15 minutes, so go ahead and ask questions.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Do I just say it?
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to raise my hand or whatnot? Okay. So I know a lot of the times now, like most jobs or some jobs at least require a master's. Like how important is that? And like some roles, is it super important, like you need it, or is it more of like yes or no? I don't know. Is it important to have a master's in this field of work?
I can start. You don't, for my position of work, you don't have to have a master's. Like, we understand that, like, you need the experience to have the experience or to get the job. So for us, like as long as you are passionate about the work that we're doing and our mission and our like where we want to go, like you're not required to have one. You like as a student, like be involved, right, and that builds up your resume, and I think that's worth more than having a master's sometimes because you have that experience and you have that communication and like you know people, and that's how you get in.
I think it also do figure out in what field you want to start or start your passions or start your career in, and then understand from those career professionals what they did to get there. Was it required for them, or was it encouraged that they go out and get a master's? And if so, maybe that is something that you take a look at, because I think with some degree or with some career paths, maybe especially maybe some more clinical or technical professions, maybe a master's degree or a graduate degree is required. But for my role and for the work that we do, experience is definitely going to get, I think, you a lot further than the extended education, but it is beneficial.
For my end, our youngest team member is 19, so it really depends. We have our main focus on the policy and advocacy work right now is around in-state tuition, equity access for undocumented and DACA students. So for us, it's really important to compensate also the people who are impacted. But within our team, there's 2 of us who have a master's, one of them who's getting her master's, and then the other one is a student at MCC, and the other one is has a bachelor's degree. So I think that it really depends on your field. I want to echo that, but experience, that's something that you really want to look for. So now that I sit more on the HR side, right, it's like I always ask myself, when we are having those conversations with the hiring committee, it's like, is this person passionate about it? Can I see that spark in their eyes? Can they be innovative? Are they willing to take risks? Are they willing to just try on? And Angelica can attest to that. We do role playing in our interviews, and that's something more that it's gonna tell us real time how are you gonna respond to a specific circumstances. Going back to what Karla was saying, as in sometimes you're gonna see unforeseen challenges, so how do you respond to that? And that is way more important, because if you don't have a skill set, that can be coachable, that can be bad. But if you don't have the passion, I personally don't believe you can teach that.
For Girl Scouts, part-time, you don't have to have a degree, but for the next step up, which would be a coordinator, they do require a bachelor's degree. But after that, if you want to move up, it just depends on your experience and how hard you're working on making that difference in the organization.
Yeah, and same with Catholic Charities, especially with refugee resettlement, there is a lot of promotion from within. And for a lot of our positions, you don't necessarily require even a bachelor's degree. A lot of it just is based off your experience and also your history, because quite a few of our staff are non-US born, so they are coming from overseas, and for all we know, they don't necessarily or can't get certain degrees approved, or it's really difficult. So. And again, you have to remember that I think only 8% of the U.S. population has a master's degree at this point. So it's more about your experience and what you're doing with your time than, I built up experience before I went back for my master's degree, and I could honestly say that the experience really helped me more than the MSW.
But continue your education.
Yeah.
No, but also to be very candid, the title does matter, right? I started seeing as a young Latina woman who has DACA and it's part of marginalized community. I started seeing the treatment, even though that I had the same knowledge before and after my master's. So that's also very real, that I just want to say that.
Question, a lot of you kind of have programs that are developing or are new and upcoming, and how do you go from having the brainstorm idea of what you want to do and then actually physically going out into the community and making it happen? And I know you kind of spoke to it a little bit with innovations, but I was wondering if any of you could expand on that.
So I run a program called Raíz, and it's super new, less than 5 years. And for us, it's a national program, but it's also very local and very like on the ground. So we have really like goals that we have to meet all the time, and we have to make sure that we keep those goals, right? But also like looking at the data and looking at the populations we're serving is a big key for us when we're strategizing or making sure that we're in the communities and the spaces that we want to be in. So I guess for us, with this new program, with the Raíz program, we're just focused on engaging the Latinx community is like, what do we want to accomplish, right? It's always looking at your mission and really seeing what your capacity is and how you're able to attain that. And money, right? You want to make sure that you have that money to spend or that you need. So for us, it's very like looking at those goals and setting up those goals and if they're realistic or not. And it's also like very challenging, right? Like sometimes it's a new program for Planned Parenthood and engaging our Latinx community. And so also going back and reporting back to our managers of like, this didn't work, this did work, and being really real, because working with the Latinx community, especially with Planned Parenthood, we can't just go in there and be like, this is what we're doing now, right? It's more of like, how can we help you? How can we how can we serve you? Right? It's not going in with the mentality of like, this is what we're gonna do and that's it, but also being flexible with the community and taking it back to our management and leadership to make sure that we create those changes within the community that we want to see, and really make sure that we meet the goals that we have, not only in people but in leadership development as well, because at the end of our goal with Planned Parenthood, we want to make sure that we continue to empower young women, young people of color, and just anybody in general. So, you know, like, is it meeting that goal at the end? And if it's not, then it's not real. So yeah, it's always strategizing and going back and reporting our numbers and really keeping track of your data, because that's really important.
Yeah, so just relating it to what she just said, when you go in to meet with the new organization, you're learning from them as they're learning from you. So one of my questions is always, what do you think the girls can benefit from? You know, and I bring with me different focus areas that we have, and they kind of go off of that, or they just tell me right away, okay, these girls need maybe some self-confidence, you know? So then we focus program around that. But it can change, you know? Like the coordinators can think of something that will benefit the girls, but then you bring it to program and you completely lose the girls. You know, they're not interested. So what do we need to do? Bring it back and make the changes for the girls to stay engaged and come back to program. So it's just really just going in, really understanding who it is that you're serving, and then making sure that you're making the connection with what you're bringing in and with the girls, or with whoever it is that you're working with.
I think for us, it's first, like, there's a couple of steps. Like, you have to identify the gap. Like, what is the gap that you're trying to fill? And then from that, something that I want to say that we always do at Aliento is, like, really test our assumptions. Like, are we thinking that we're going to be helping people? Do we think that by doing X, Y, and Z, it's going to create a specific impact? So being able to really like galvanize and really be critical about what are the assumptions that you're taking and that you're making before you even go into the initiative. And then the other component is like this co-creation space that we call it. How do we get feedback for the impacted people? So it's like, if we are intended to be serving or working with the undocumented community, are we actually taking the time to get any feedback from there? Are we just, is one of the assumptions that if we do X, Y, and Z, that's going to help them, or are we actually taking the time to do those feedback loops and hearing from them? And are we taking that culture? And then how do we make sure that we have moments of assessment? So really going back to what Norma was saying, as in like, how are we being like not only data driven, but also figure it out, like, are we looking at adding until the end of the initiative, or do we have a specific assessment points that we're constantly reevaluating and figure it out, that like feedback loop, if it's working what we're claiming to be working?
I wanted to know how hands-on and like community interactive are your intern and volunteering opportunities? Like, how involved do the interns and volunteers get in the with the actual people that you're serving in your groups?
I think do you want to go?
Sure, I'll go. Well, yeah, as like a fellow for Aliento, it really has helped me to be directly in touch with the people that we are serving. I meet one-on-one with students who will be directly impacted by the work that we're doing. We are creating, like the organization here on campus. So it really depends on the project that you're assigned to, but there is that potential, at least for Aliento, to really directly be in contact face-to-face with these folks, send messages, send emails, do it through phone. There is that communication and outreach.
I think for us, we do have diverse roles for our interns and diverse responsibilities for each role. But I think in some way, shape, or form, our interns, no matter the role that they play, and all of our interns too are technically unpaid. They're volunteers for the organization. So they're servicing our mission in some way, shape, or form, whether it be communicating to the public the work that we're doing, helping to build relationships and facilitate relationships and manager support, corporate partners, or maybe individual donors, or help to plan events, or work with a lot of the schools with which we partner that plan what we call Wish Weeks for our organization that really build awareness and support, fundraising support for the organization. Again, the money that we're raising is going back into our mission, and our only program at MakeAWish is to grant wishes. And then, of course, with our wish granting interns, they're really directly benefiting and servicing the mission through really helping to plan and coordinate the wishes that are being granted through our organization. But it's more behind the scenes work. So they're more in an office where we have another volunteer position called the wish granter, where you get more direct contact or interaction with our wish kids and families by really understanding, getting to know the child on a very personalized level, understanding who they are and really what their wish is going to be, and then help facilitate and organize and plan and coordinate that as a wish granter. So they have the opportunity to be a wish granter through their internship. They also have the opportunity they can gain access to other parts of the organization and provide benefit to other areas, really through reaching out to other staff members and really getting involved in events or getting involved in other initiatives or other projects, or really kind of implementing or kind of stepping into other meetings and providing their advice and their input as well. So there are other areas that they really can make a difference in outside of their role. And then additionally with our internships, we do provide that professional development component. So we allow you to build upon a skill set, built upon experience that really kind of falls outside of your role. So these are general skills that you can really take with you and build upon in other kind of career pursuits as well. So I would say our interns really do have a direct impact on our mission, even though they work in an office. It's more of an office setting.
For Girl Scouts, you'll be definitely hands-on with the girls. So you'll probably be the co-facilitator. So going in and just kind of shadowing the lead. The first few programs. It also just depends on the intern too. Some interns are like, head on, I can be lead, and I'll take it on. But others prefer to kind of see how it's done before they become the leads. So it would be more on how it is how comfortable you feel to just be the one talking, planning the program. Or you can be the site co-lead and you can just help maybe you're the one that's packing the programs and supplies, and then just being there to help the girls out. But what we're trying to do here when we partner up with the juvenile detention centers, we want it to be led by your guys' program. So whoever it is that's interning with us, you guys will be the leads for it. We'll provide a staff that can go in the first maybe couple of programs in with you guys, just to kind of show you guys the process of checking in, showing your IDs, getting checked, and then going in and starting program with the girls. But maybe after 2 programs, you guys will be the leads for it.
And with Catholic Charities, there are varying levels of interns and volunteers. And also at our location, we also have AmeriCorps Vistas. So that's another level of, they're technically considered volunteers, but you also get some type of stipend. So if you're looking for, some type of paid work, you could always look into the AmeriCorps programs. There's a lot of projects even within this community. But in terms of interns, a lot of it is more on the administrative side. And also in terms of volunteers, that's where you get more direct experience with the community. You do go through a series of trainings, especially if you're going to volunteer with refugee programs. You do what's called Refugee 101 and Refugee 201, I believe. and it gives you kind of an overview of, you know, the population that you're working with, the different traumas that they're dealing with, the process, you know, of what it takes to be a refugee, and the entire process of what it takes to come to the United States as a refugee. And once you're done with that, you do a lot more hands-on, like there's donation drives, there are like Christmas gift-giving drives, and like back to school, you know, backpack events for our refugee families. So again, it depends on what exactly it is you want to do. There's varying levels that are available at Catholic Charities.
And just very quickly, because I know it's already 6:30, I want to be conscious of your time. Planned Parenthood is super hands-on. Like, we are out there in the community talking to our patients. We have a program called HCAP where we go inside of our health centers. We go to the one here in Tempe specifically, the one in Glendale, in our health center in downtown, where we want to hear from our patients. Like, why did you decide to come to get your healthcare from Planned Parenthood? So our volunteers have that opportunity to hear stories, because as organizers, the most powerful thing you have is your story. Right, so for us, it's super important that we capture our patients' stories of why they're going to Planned Parenthood. No matter if it's for just for your general checkup, or if it's for birth control or whatever, we want to hear from you. So our interns and our volunteers always have that hands-on experience to really be in the community and learn, right? Because we learn from our people, and that's really important for us to really know where our patients are coming from, to really know who our supporters are, and to really just understand why people are supporting Planned Parenthood. So we have the HCAP program. Our interns are always in leadership positions. Right now I have an intern that's, we have a rally happening here with David Garcia and Bernie Sanders. So my intern and a couple of my other leaders, volunteer leaders, and which are ASU students, are making sure that we have a successful event. So super hands-on, right? I'm a person that's moving around the city all the time. So my volunteers and my interns come with me. And so we're everywhere. Planned Parenthood is super hands-on. And if you're a person that is able to communicate or likes to be around other people, we're there. And if you're a person that doesn't like to be around people or just likes to do your own thing, we also have opportunities for people, you know, whatever your character is, we're able to accommodate to you.
Alright, so thank you so much. We come to the end of our panel. I want to thank each and every one of you students for coming and making it happen. We're so happy. And to all our panelists, awesome job. Thank you so much for coming and enlightening all of us with your knowledge and your mentorship, and that means a lot to us. And on behalf of Willie and I just want to say thank you again. So thank you.